to Empowering You. I have a Holly Carroll from Tennessee, and she is going to share with us her journey through addiction and overcoming it. Hello, Holly. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and share your story with us. So
Thank
tell
you
me,
for having me.
how is it in Tennessee right now?
It's hot. It's very hot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of rainy where I'm at, so I think I would like to have a little bit of hotness right now. But so, um, Holly, can you share with us, maybe when your addiction started, kind of like how that happened and how that unfolded for you?
Yes. I always had a great childhood. I was never raised around drinking or drugs or anything. My dad owned a gun shop. So I've been around guns my whole life. My mom worked at the same, job. I just had a normal childhood. I mean, no fighting, no divorce, nothing. And then when I was 20 years old, my mom got sick and she passed away when I just turned 20.
I'm sorry.
So it was just, my dad, and I have an older brother, and he's in the National Guard. He's like 47. And so I was just raised like with a dad that sold guns. My mom worked, and my brother was in the army, and my mom got sick with COPD. And after 20, basically I just got in bad relationships. And then, I married a guy, and he had a pill addiction and I didn't, but I stayed because I was like, this is what marriage is supposed to be. I'm supposed to support him, I'm supposed to love him. But then, let's see, I guess when I was about 25, I started having pain all over, and I went to the doctor and they started doing tests on me and thought it was lupus, thought it was Lyme disease. Well, then after a year or so, I they finally realized that I had rheumatoid arthritis. And this is what my hands look like now because they are so crooked. Well, for the longest time, I started going to a doctor. They just started giving me hydros, to treat it. Well, they didn't work. They worked for a little bit. And then, it was hard for me to keep my medicine because I was taking them the right way. And I was trying to hide them from my husband at the time because, I didn't want him to take my medicine. I didn't want to enable him. Well, long story short, over the years, I finally gave in and it just turned into a full blown addiction. Got myself into pain clinics. Me and him was going to pain clinics like 2 hours away, and it just turned into a mess. And I never had no medicine because I had to rob Peter to pay Paul, and it was just a mess that I wish I never got into. And then the pills, when I got kicked out of the doctor,
So
the
how'd you
pills
get
that
kicked out of the doctor?
well, when I wasn't on count and I didn't have enough in my system and just little stuff. They was like, hey, we can't see you anymore. You don't have this. You didn't follow our rules. So they kicked me out. Then I started buying them off the street. And back then, this was 7 years ago, one pill was like $120.
Oh
And
my.
my tolerance was so high, and I was supporting my habit and my husband at the time's habit. And it was just awful. And I was making really good money at the time. I was working in timeshare in Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg, and I was making like $120 to $140 a year, and I didn't have any money. And I had a daughter. I only had one child. She is 17 now. But back then I was making good money and it just got out of hand. And my dad knew, he started to know I had a drug habit, a pill habit. And he was
So,
enabling me.
so this whole time that you're doing pills, it's hydrocodone, or did you move on to something stronger?
No, I moved on to the after the hydros did not work anymore. I went on to a pill called Opana, Oxycontin. And that was like the highest one on the street. I'm sure you know, with being a former police officer, I mean, the Opanas and stuff, they were like $140. And here I was I had to share with my husband at the time and me. And then where my tolerance was getting so high, I was having to do more. And then I was making good money, but then I started buying, spending all my money on the medicine and then the pain and doctors back then before I got kicked out. And then, my dad was starting to question, hey, you're making good money. Where's your money going to? Because he was having to help me with my daughter. He was having to help pay my rent. And at the time, the guy that I was married to, he went to jail. And, we got divorced and I went to rehab. I went to like three rehabs when I finally, let's
What
see,
did he
I
go to jail
finally,
for? Was it for drugs?
yes,
Yeah.
I got a DUI. And then after that, before that, my dad's like, I can't help you anymore. I can't financially help you. I can't help you. And then I went to a couple of rehabs. And long story short, I ended up losing my daughter. I ended up losing custody over my daughter over the drugs, because when I couldn't afford the pills anymore, I started methamphetamine.
So
So
who did you, so was your daughter with your first, and I'm sorry, I'm just trying to put it all together. Was your daughter with the guy that was already that was in jail or no?
no, he raised her. He
Okay,
raised her.
so you lost her to the state or to your dad?
My dad, well, the state took her, and then my dad actually got custody of her.
Okay.
She lived with him, and that she was probably about 8 years old, I think, about 8 or 9. And so her whole world got ripped apart. Then I got with another guy, and it was just the same thing. It was just history repeating itself. Instead of me trying to better myself, I was just backtracking and doing the same thing again. So eventually, I lost my apartment. I lost my job. I lost everything, except I still had a car. That's the one thing I had. I still had a car. So I ended up losing everything. I put my stuff in storage, what I had left that people didn't steal. So I ended up homeless. And I believe in, I was homeless for about 6 or 7 months. I mean, I was digging out of dumpsters, you know, you know, CVS and stuff would on Sundays throw their good items away. And, I ended up still homeless with people that I shouldn't have been with. And then I was living with people and just getting another bad relationships.
So
So
did you stay in your
finally,
car? Like, did
yes,
you stay in your car a lot? So how were you able to like get gas and stuff for your car? Was you just out there?
that's the advantage of where I had a car, and most of the people when I was homeless, they didn't have a car. They had
Um,
drugs. I had a car. So they was like, if you take me here, I'll give you this. And I was basically just their ride. So
you were
that's
just
how
the
I got,
runner. Yeah.
yeah. And
Okay.
that's how I got my stuff. And then I ended up meeting another guy and having a place to stay. And finally, I was homeless. I was, when was this? June the 2nd. I didn't have no place to go. This was June the 2nd, I believe, of 2017.
So through all this time, like your dad has your daughter, you are still struggling going through all that. Did you get to see your daughter? Did you get to see your dad? Or was it kind of just like until you get together, there's no,
I could see her, but I kept making broken promises.
okay.
She would call me. I'd be like, I'll be there. I'll be there. But then I ended up, going elsewhere. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Back then, I picked drugs over my child because I was so addicted and I couldn't quit because I was so sick. And the good thing about methamphetamine, it didn't have the sickness like you would on opiates. So back then, methamphetamine is more like a mental. It was more like a mental thing. And then I got hooked on the needle. And that was very, very hard for me. That was bad. And, my dad finally said, I can't give you no money anymore. And my daughter didn't want to see me. She didn't because I kept making broken promises, and I would come here, and me and my dad would get in a fight, and he would threaten to call the law on me, and it was just a big mess. And finally, on June the 3rd, I believe, 2017, well, June the 2nd, I come here to his house while he was not home. I was so tired, and it's the house that I live in now. It was my childhood home. I come here and I just wanted to sleep. That's all I wanted to do was sleep. And my little girl and her aunt on her dad's side come here to swim in our swimming pool. Well, me and the aunt didn't get along. So, of course, my daughter was on her aunt's side at the time and called my dad. And a neighbor had to come over here, was like, hey, your dad just contacted me. You can't be here no more. And I was like, where am I going to go? So then is where I tried to take my life. I was cutting my wrist. I was trying to take pills. None of it worked. So I said, God, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to live like this. I don't want this life anymore. Either help me get clean or just take me. I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I'm tired of this lifestyle. I'm tired of being sick and tired. So I ended up leaving my dad's house, and I ended up just meeting up with some people, giving them a ride so I could get my fix. Well, that was a Friday night. And the next day, on June the 3rd, I was at a hotel, with this bad group of people. And then they were like, listen, we need a ride, we'll give you this and blah, blah, blah. And somebody else come along. They're like, well, Holly, don't go with them, go with me, and we could just hang out. And if you're sick, I'll get you something. Well, I said, well, let me drop these people off. We went across the road to a Pilot gas station. And the girl, I knew her, but I didn't know her boyfriend at the time. Didn't know him. Well, for some reason, I guess the hotel called the law on us when we was leaving, and we was inside the gas station at a Wendy's, and we seen the cops pull up. And little did I know, the girl that was there, she booked it out the back door at the gas station. I didn't know it. She ran across the interstate. Well, her guy was out there at my car. Well, the police came and they knew my dad. They knew who I was because my dad owned a gun shop. He knew every cop in town. So, they asked me, hey, can we search your vehicle? And I'm like, yeah, you can search it. I don't have nothing because I didn't have anything because I didn't have no money. I had just a little bit on me, maybe like $5, $10 worth. Well, the cops started searching my car. And the next thing I know, he goes for my glove box where that guy was originally sitting on the passenger side, and the cops open and they pull out this bag of stuff. 18 grams of meth, I think Suboxone, all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, what in the world is that? I said other stuff, but I was like, what is that? I didn't know it was there. I would have never let them search my car.
Where
Well,
was the guy at this point?
he was standing right there while his
Okay.
girlfriend booked it across the interstate and left us there. So the cops, the drug task force, everybody was there. Well, the guy didn't, say it was his, and I'm scared. You always said, snitches get stitches, and I didn't know what to say, and I'm like, you know, so we both got arrested because the car was mine, and whenever something's in your car, you're reliable for that. That is yours. You have to claim that. So I went to jail. I thought, hey, my dad knows these police officers. I'm just going to call dad and he's going to get me out of jail. My brother was in his 2-week training for the National Guard in Mississippi. And no, my dad did not. He's like, and I kept calling him, and the bondsman calling me. He's like, no, Holly, I'm too busy raising your child. Find your own way out. Click. And I'm like, so I sat there for 150 days, and I had a public defender. And I was honest with my family. I was like, listen, those drugs are not mine. they're not mine. I didn't have no money, guys. Like, and they believed me because I had no reason to lie because I was already in so much trouble. I had no reason to lie. So my brother ended up getting me a federal attorney out of Nashville in case it went fed because 18 grams, it was probably going to go fed. Well, they found, a few evidence in the car, like a drug ledger that had a bunch of payment stuff that belonged to that girl and that boy. And finally, I think they charged him. I think he took a plea, but I was like, these ain't my drugs. So the public, the guy, the lawyer that my brother hired in, I sat there for 150 days. And finally, my bond was $75,000, and he would have to have 10% of that. So my brother, we finally went to court, and the judge lowered my bond, I think, to $30,000. So finally, after 150 days, my brother bonded me out. Well, I get out. My car got seized. I had nothing. I had nothing to my name. When I went to jail, I was like 120 pounds. After 150 days, I got out and I weighed like 180 pounds because you don't lose weight when you're in jail, you gain weight. So I come out of there looking like Winnie the Pooh in my jail shirt. It was bad. And so I
Winnie
got
the
out
Pooh.
and I was like back at square one because I had no place to go because where
Mhm.
my dad had custody of my daughter, the court orders, I couldn't stay here. I couldn't have no overnight visits. So I was like, well, why didn't you all just leave me in jail? At least then I had, 3 meals a day and I had a place to sleep. So at the time, my brother lived and worked at a funeral home. And that is where I ended up. I had no license, I had no car, I had nothing. And I ended up with him at the funeral home, living on top of a funeral home. And while I was in jail, I learned a lot, because ladies would come in and we would do church and stuff like that. And one night I called my brother because where he, worked at the funeral home and he would go pick up bodies, he always told me that his biggest fear was going to pick up a body that he didn't know who it was. He didn't know till he got there if it was a guy or a girl. And if they didn't have no name, he was so worried that he was always going to unzip that bag. And there I was going to be from a drug overdose or getting killed or raped or murdered, just anything. And that really sunk into me. I didn't want my family to go through that. I didn't want my brother to have to go pick up my body and embalm me and bury me because of something that I could have prevented. And then I realized, if that happened in my obituary, it wouldn't be anything good. It wouldn't be loving wife or loving daughter, loving sister, you know, she retired from this place. She had these accomplishments. No, if somebody would have seen me in the obituary, they would just be like, oh, another junkie. Just one less off the street. Just one more off the street. And I realized I didn't want that. And my daughter, she come and visited me one time in jail, and the paperwork had it where she wasn't supposed to visit a jail. But my dad did bring her, and he's like, listen, I don't want to get in trouble. I can't lose her. I can't bring her back. But then my daughter didn't want to see me. She come and it was like a video like this, and I'm behind on a screen and she's on a screen. And like 8, 9 years old, my daughter's like, well, mom, if you made your bed, now you got to sleep in it. If you did the time, you got to do the crime. And I'm just like, and that broke my heart that my daughter did not want to see me like that.
And that's a
And
lot
see,
for an
and her
eight-year-old
dad,
to
and what
say.
was hard is her dad. I was never married to him. He was in and out of jail and on drugs.
Oh,
But she thought he hung the moon. I might have did the same stuff he done, but dad, he hung the moon. So finally, after I was living at the funeral home, I didn't have nothing. So I was on probation and I had to start like a drug class, like a drug court class, like 2 or 3 days a week. It might have been like every day. And for probation, it was at the Helen Ross McNabb. So I had to attend that. And let's see, I got clean. My clean date was favorite. I just celebrated 6 years. So it was then I started the class. I think I graduated in March. Well, shortly after that, I got my job where I'm at now. Been there for 6 years. And of course, I remarried again. And I really thought, because I met this guy in the class that I was in, he was in there for drug addiction too. Well, he was clean and he he was a good guy. He really was, at least I thought. And he traded one addiction for another. He started drinking, and I never drank. And it just started getting a little bit more and more and more and more. And he was just really possessive. I couldn't have social media. I couldn't wear makeup to work. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do that. And it was just always a constant battle. My dad would always have to come over. My dad was like, hey guys, y'all are married. Y'all got to work this out. You got to stop drinking. Well, my dad went to court with me, and the judge knew my dad because the judge bought guns for my dad. And my dad was like, hey, I want her supervised visits lifted. She's been doing great. She's on the right path. She's been clean, for this amount of time. So the judge lifted my supervised visitation. And my daughter got to start coming over to mine and my husband at the time. I've been married about 3 times, and it was just all of them bad except the one that I have now. And I got to start seeing my daughter more, but then she didn't like the drinking and the fighting. And then February the 28th of 2021 is when my world crashed. My dad, that's when COVID happened.
Mhm.
He got COVID. I got COVID. My daughter, we all got COVID at the same time. Well, my husband then, he took my dad to the hospital, and my daddy never came out of it. He was in the hospital for about 3 weeks, probably about January the 6th. Well, they got him switched to Vanderbilt Hospital in Nashville, Tennessee. And me and my brother went down there, and we really thought that he was going to make it. And he didn't. But on his deathbed, I
I'm so
promised
sorry.
I promised him, because about that was in January. In November is when the election was going on with Trump and Biden. And a couple people tried to break into my dad's gun shop like a couple of days before election because they knew things were going to get bad. Well, my dad told himself that he was going to stay at that gun shop if they come back that night of when the election came, and he was going to catch them people. And I was so worried. And so I called my daddy, and I was worried. I was like, Dad, let me come down here and stay with you. And I said, Daddy, in case something did happen to him, I said, Daddy, do you forgive me? Do you forgive me for everything that I've done during addiction? And he said, Yes, honey, I do. I forgave you a long time ago, but just don't ever do that again. But a few years before that, a year or two before that, he had a bunch of surgeries. He had a stent surgery in his heart. And I made a comment to him while I was with my brother picking up a dead body from the hospital, because I thought at the time, whenever my daughter got taken away from me, I always accused her dad's side of the family for calling DCS. And my dad, and I said, yeah, they're probably going to call DCS on me again and just try to get me in trouble for something I ain't done. And that's when my daddy said, hey, I got to tell you something. He said, I'm the one that called DCS on you. I'm the one that got your daughter taken away from you, because if I didn't, she was going to end up dead. And you know what I said to my daddy? Thank you. Thank you for loving her that much to get her out of that situation before something bad happened. Now, if I was still in active addiction, I would be like, I can't believe you did that. How could you do that to me? But the new, sober, loving Holly was like, thank you. Because here my mom passed away. My dad ran his own business, and here he was taking care of a little girl. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to do that at all. And on his deathbed, I promised him that I would never do that again. So shortly after he passed away in January. About May the 14th, the law got called to the house that I was living at because my husband at the time was a drunk. So that's when me and my daughter decided we was packing up because I finally got my license back. My brother, after my dad passed away, my brother helped me get my license back because my brother knew I had to get out of that situation or I was going to end up losing my daughter again. So I ended up, my brother helped me after my dad passed away get my license back, and I had my dad's Monte Carlo. And so I had my car and I had my license, so I had a way to get back and forth to work. And then so I moved back into my childhood home because at the time I owned 50% of the gun shop and then 50% of the house. So me and my daughter moved up here and I got a divorce and we started making my childhood home our home. And then I met my husband about 3 years. Well, we knew each other at work, but then we started in a relationship, and I could not ask for a better man because my dad died in January, and then in September, my little girl's mama died. The next month in October, her dad died. So here my daughter lost three people in 9 months' time. And my daughter's 17 now, almost 18. And that was a lot for her to handle. Like it was a lot. She lost her dad here. I'm trying to grieve over my dad and I'm trying to help her. And I didn't know how to help her.
Yeah.
So me and my husband, now his name is Jason, and he is my best friend. He supports me, and I started drinking heavily when I moved here. And because, my best friend, her and her husband would drink because they live in the same neighborhood. We all would drink, but I was drinking a lot, I guess, trying to cope with stuff. And my husband now, before he moved in here, because he was going through a divorce too, and he didn't drink, and he'd been actually clean. He's been clean from drugs for like 20 some years now, and he's 46. And he told me before he moved in here, he said, listen, if you continue drinking like you do, I can't be with you. He said, I don't do that stuff. I don't want to be around it. So I quit cold turkey because I wanted to be with this man. And when was it? We've been married for a year now. So last January, he moved in here on January the 27th. Well, January the 28th, the next day, was the anniversary of my dad's death. It was 2 years that my dad died. His dad died that day on the same day as my dad, but 2 years apart. And we're like, wow, this is a sign for us to be together so we can support each other. Because, he came out of a bad marriage. His ex wife was using him and stuff like that for money. And he come here, and my daughter just loves him. He is just a hard worker. He's been at our job, for 24 years. He's a lead, he's an operator. And I finally found true love after everything that I've went through. And through my dad's death, through my daughter's dad's death, through her grandmother's death, I stayed clean. I never relapsed with all these struggles coming my way, leaving my ex-husband and starting this new journey. I never once relapsed. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I thought about it. Of course, I thought about it. Especially, it was hard because in our neighborhood was one of the houses that I would get my drugs at. And here I had to pass by that house every day. And I knew my best friend, I don't know what I would do without her because I mean, her and her family disowned me at the time because they didn't do drugs and stuff. So they didn't want to be around it. But I got my friend back. I got her family back. I mean, I've known her for 32 years. They lived in this neighborhood. Probably about 36 years since we was 6 years old. And I was finally getting my life back on track. And then 2 years ago in October, I went and I got me a car in my own name. I didn't have to have a co-signer. I got me an Acura ILX, and things started going good. This house, that's my childhood home. I got it in the will, and I let my brother have the other half of the gun shop. So my brother got the shop, I got the house. My house is completely paid for. I'll never have to worry about being homeless again. Me and my child won't have to worry about, leaving or someone kicking us out. Our house is paid for. And my husband is just an amazing man. We are in the midst of remodeling our house and doing it together. Like I finally found true love. We don't fight and we don't argue. And my daughter's a totally different person now because of it. And at first, when me and him first got together, she didn't know what to think because she didn't want to get attached to him because she was always I had bad relationships. I had very, very bad relationships. And she didn't want to get attached and one of them leave. But after we got married last July the 22nd in our front yard with all of our coworkers, all of our family. And then my brother started coming around when he seen, hey, she's really got her a good guy now. Like he works, we have nice things. Every now and again we might celebrate and just drink maybe one thing, but I don't drink like I did. Like I have no reason. I was drinking to numb the pain. But a lot of people don't realize when they once they get clean from drugs, a lot of people trade the addictions and go to alcohol because they can go to the store and they can buy it. But being an alcoholic is I think worse than pills. Like it's just awful. So now, like, I quit vaping. Like, I am, only thing I take for my arthritis is Rinvoq. I won't take anything for pain. I tell them up front whenever I go to the doctor. Before I would be really embarrassed, like, oh, I can't tell these doctors no. As soon as I go in, I tell them up front, hey, just so you know, I'm a recovering addict. I've been clean for 6 years. Do not give me anything for pain. Well, they had to last October because I almost died. My husband almost died. We seem to find stuff that happens on the same day. Last October, on the October the 6th, he had to have hernia surgery. So I
Oh,
was getting ready to take him to his hernia surgery, and my daughter was on fall break, and she was going to go up here with us and sit at the hospital. Well, all of a sudden that morning, I got up and I was just sick. I was throwing up. So I thought I had COVID again. So I went to one hospital. My husband went, my mother in law had to take him to his surgery because I didn't want to go to the same hospital and me possibly have COVID and us the same last name. They're like, oh no, we can't do his surgery because she has
yeah,
COVID.
yeah.
Well, my daughter took me to one hospital and they said I just had like a bladder infection. Well, they sent me home. My husband got home from surgery. I'm sick. He's injured on a walker. The next day, I had a temperature of 106 and I had to drive myself to another hospital. The other hospital I went to misdiagnosed me. I had a kidney infection
Oh,
that was a bladder infection that turned into sepsis and it was getting in my bloodstream. So here I'm at the hospital. This is October. Me and my husband just got married in July. He's home by himself having major surgery. I'm in the hospital. He's all to heck because he couldn't be up there with me. It was just awful. But I told him, I really thought I was dying. I was scared to death, but they did give me, I was like, listen, I'm a recovering addict, but I was in so much pain from that
yeah,
kidney infection.
yeah, that
They
hurts.
did give me pain medicine, and I was fine with it because I needed it. And after I got home, I was fine. My husband, they did give him pain medication for his hernia surgery. And I said, all I ask is just for you to hide it in the safe. I don't want to be tempted. I don't want to see it. And he was respectful and he hid it in the safe. I didn't have the code to get in there. And we just make a great team. And I did recovery. I did it without him, but having someone there to support me and my daughter when times were so tough. I mean, we just were a team. And that's what my daughter needed. And anytime he goes somewhere, she's out the door, 17 years old, wanting to go with him. And most 17-year-olds wouldn't want to be with their mom and stepdad. And now we just have a good family. Recovery has been the hardest thing I have ever done, but it's been so worth it. And I'm so glad that day that I tried to take my life. I'm so glad it didn't go through. I'm so glad that I stayed another day. I'm so glad. And I kept wondering, through these years, what was my purpose? Like, why didn't I die of an overdose? Like, why did God save me? Like, I'm a bad person. I lost my daughter. But then after my dad passed away, I went to court. After it was before I left my ex husband at the time, I went to court because here my dad died, and that was her guardian. And so
Yeah.
I went to court and I told that judge, I was like, listen, my dad died. I want my daughter back. I've been clean. I got my license. I got my car. CPS was there. Child service was there, and they was against it because I was still on probation and I had fines. And the judge was like, no, she is doing good. I'm giving her daughter back. So I got my daughter back. Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place. I backtracked a little bit, but I got my daughter back and we rebuild that relationship. And for the longest time, my daughter still had anger against me. She would throw up in my face, you chose drugs over me. And I'm like, yes, yes, I did choose drugs over you. But then in the end, I chose you over the drugs. I chose to get clean so I could be a mom to you. Because if I would have went, I was facing 13 years in prison for some those drugs that was not mine. For those 18 gram of meth, I was facing prison. And my brother paid $30,000 for that lawyer, and that lawyer got me off. I was on probation. My stuff was felonies. It went down to misdemeanors. And now today, I'm a gun owner. I'm able to own a gun. I could go vote. I could actually be a normal person. My husband's a gun owner, and now we can go shoot and we could do stuff. And back then, I didn't realize like it was awful not being able to like be a gun owner and have that right taken away from you. And now that I got all this stuff back, I will never lose it again. Like I'm careful about, I only have maybe my best friend and her family. I watch who I hang out with because I always told myself if these people that was so-called friends, if they wasn't there for me when I was in jail, if they wasn't there for me at my worst, I don't need them at my best. But I had to change my people, my places, my things. I could not have Facebook. I couldn't go nowhere. I mean, I didn't have a license, but when I lived here with my dad for a little bit and then my brother, I was alone. And that's what had to happen until I was mature enough to realize that, hey, I could start having social media again and stuff like that. Now, one thing that helped me was the Vivitrol shot. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that, but whenever I was doing my drug program, it's a shot. It's nothing addictive, but a lot of the judges makes the inmates get that before they get out of jail. And it blocks opiates, alcohol. It doesn't block meth, but I was over that part, but it helped me with my cravings. It helped me with my using dreams. And I got into Celebrate Recovery at my church that I become a member of. And I was a member. Me and my ex-husband at the time, we was going, and he would play, the guitar in the band, but behind everyone's back, he was drinking and everything. But the program, like he stayed clean too. He did. He stayed clean from drugs and Celebrate Recovery. I don't go to it anymore just because I'm so busy with life. But every single morning for the last 3.5 years, I send out a morning devotional to these maybe 6, 7 ladies every single morning. We only see each other once a year at Christmas, but I screenshot the morning devotional from the NA book, and it'll say, tell them, talk about addiction and stuff like that. And it'll say just for today. And, those ladies every morning, because I send it every morning about 5:30. Every now and again, I might forget on the weekend, but these ladies, some of them had a drug addiction, some of them had a sex addiction, some of them had codependency, and I'm the youngest out of this group, and some of them were 60 years old. And I text these ladies every morning, and they'll be like, "Holly, thank you for every day sending this on your way to work." Like some of them's like, "I had such a bad day, and your morning devotional just." Made our day. And like August the 1st, I'll send like hello August, or I'll send them recovery quotes. And and I still have that, even though I don't go to Celebrate Recovery. I still talk to my sponsor every morning whenever I send the morning devotional, but now it's in a routine. And every now and again, I have to watch what I watch on TV, and I'll have using dreams every now and again, but it's the devil. It's the devil trying to pull me back, and I won't let him. But now, today, my daughter will be 18 in
Today?
February.
Oh, February. Okay.
She's getting ready to graduate high school, and I get to watch that.
Yeah.
I didn't think that I would ever be able to see that. And just knowing that my dad seen me be clean and he told me that he was proud of me and that he forgave me is something that I will stick with forever. And now, on the anniversary of his death, I'm supporting my husband because his dad died on the same day. He's supporting me, and I'm at a good place.
Yeah,
And
it
like on
definitely
my
sounds
tattoo,
like it.
God could do for me what I could not do for myself. And I have a great support system. And I have a I have a good job. The people there support me, and most of them are older people, and I'm just around a good environment. But I have no reason to drink anymore. I was drinking to numb the pain. I got no reason to numb the pain. And now I could actually be a mom and support Alexa whenever she's struggling over her dad. And I know that my dad would be proud of the guy that I've married, the man that he is. I mean, he's outside, working on the house and laying floors down. He's remodeling our whole house because, this is our house now. But he's like, Holly, this was your childhood home, and I want to make your daddy proud. And I finally found what love is, and I have no reason to fight or drink or do drugs. Like, I wish that I found this years ago, but it was in God's plan for things to happen when they did. I hate that I got on drugs, but even my brother said with him being in the National Guard and doing the funeral stuff that he does, a lot of people don't overcome this. Like, we keep going to funerals of people that older people that's in their 40s and 50s that's overdosed. And I'm like, well, brother, that was me. That could have been me. And
Mhm.
he's like, you know what, sister, you're right. You're right. I'm so proud of you. And to hear these people tell me that they're proud of me is awesome. I mean, it's not easy. Recovery's not easy. But if you have the right people in your life in the right mindset, you could do it. So when people I know from my past, oh, I wish I could get clean. I wish I could get a job. Mm-mm. If I could do it, you could do it too. I mean, it could happen. And I mean, I proved them wrong.
I
And
love that. I love your energy just talking about it. And this is truly my first time hearing your story. And it's so amazing to hear you really be so honest about where you were, the things that you went through, and how you were honest and recognizing that you did choose drugs instead of your daughter. Like that is hard for some people to do, like
yeah, and I
admit
mean, I
things like
have no
that.
shame. I mean, I'm honest. I did. I chose drugs over my daughter. And at the end, it wasn't to get high, it's so I wouldn't be sick. And then I finally said, when God answered my prayers and put me in jail, I said, this will be my only time in jail. I'm not going to be a frequent flyer like some of these people are. And I wanted my daughter needed me. She didn't deserve that because I grew up in a good childhood. So my daughter deserved what I had. It wasn't fair to her. It wasn't fair. And then, losing her dad, she needed me. And
And
now,
you
we still
recognize
have
that though. Yeah.
we still have our arguments, but she's almost 18. Like, we're kind of the same. But she knows my husband ain't going nowhere, and she tells him that she loves him. And life's good.
Yeah.
Life is good. I mean, I struggle every day because, you know, I work in a factory and I lift 200-pound dies and my hands are so crooked. But now the medication that I'm on, it's actually helping, but my hands are so crooked. They could do surgery on my hands, but I refuse to because they said it feels like 5 knee surgeries at each hand, and they would have to put me back on pain medicine. I said, I ain't doing it. I've went this long with these crooked. I'll continue like it is. I will not risk going back down that path and lose everything that I've worked so hard for. I won't do it. My
And that's
husband's not
amazing
gonna.
to hear you say that. Like there's people out there who have been addicts and have went down that road and have like, recovered and been in a good place and they do need surgery or something, like you do. And so,
It
they
starts right
take
back
it.
over.
Right, right. So for you to recognize that, hey, I know myself enough to know that I can't do that. And if I do, then this will probably happen. So you would rather deal with the pain. I mean,
Yes.
that also says a lot about like who you are as an individual, because not a lot of people would choose living with pain daily instead of taking that chance of getting surgery to get better,
Where
So
my
that
hands are so crooked, if they went back to normal and straight, I don't think I could use. I've learned to use them like this for so long. I don't think, and where I'm on the Rinvoq medication now, it's not. It won't straighten these hands, but it's going to prevent them from getting worse. And I went to the rheumatologist last Friday. That's the first time I've seen her. Since April, because me and my husband got to go on our first vacation. We went to Cancun.
oh
Like
wow, how did you like that?
I never got to do that stuff before because I was normally with people that was felons and they couldn't even leave the country. And so I was finally with someone that could be a gun owner that could leave the country, that's never been in trouble. And we were just doing stuff that normal people do. Like we went on vacation
How
and
did you like Cancun?
I loved it. It was
Yeah.
just peaceful. I was like, wow, I get to do stuff like this instead of spending my money on drugs. Like, this is what people do. And the rheumatologist, she walked in and I had on a jumper from TikTok and she walked in. She's like, Holly, you look amazing. Like, you look beautiful, because my husband always went to my visits, but he had to work that day. And she's like, how's your husband? Where is he? I said, he's at work. And I mean, because he would always support me, because he'd always want to go in and take notes what the doctor said. And he wanted to know, like, how my progress was doing. No other guy would ever do that. But he would drive me to Knoxville and go in and say, like, okay, like, what can we do? How's she doing? Like, I have a good support system. And I hate that I went through all the bad marriages and relationships that I did to get to where I am, but it was in God's time and everything happens for a reason. And with our dads passing away on the same day, he left a 20-year marriage. And here he came, and he knew when our dads died on the same day, he knew that that was basically his dad's blessing, saying, you know what, son, it's okay. And now, I mean, we support each other. I mean, it's just amazing.
That is great. I love that for you. I love that for your family, especially your daughter. I'm so glad to see that she is doing great and she's back with you and you guys all are back in your childhood home having this amazing good life that you truly do deserve. And I'm glad you were able to recognize that and put forth the effort to get to where you deserve to be. So
And I have a
congratulations on doing
daily
that.
reminder for me. I want to show you something. I have a daily reminder for me to never go back. I, as a joking matter, whenever I got out of jail, I got a copy of my mugshot and I put it on my dad's refrigerator. And I actually have a copy in my Bible as a daily reminder to never go back. This mugshot is so bad. It's awful. Like, it is awful. I mean, I thought I was going to be there until Jesus come back. And this is a daily reminder on the refrigerator to never go back to that. Like,
That doesn't even look like you. I would never like that's
I got up there and I was high on methamphetamine, and I got up there and to take my mugshot, I just go like that, and here it is. And I have it on my refrigerator. My mother-in-law come in our house last year for Thanksgiving and seen my mugshot, and I'm like, she's like, hell, I'm so glad that's not you anymore. Yeah, I keep that as a daily reminder. And I posted like a testimony a few weeks ago on TikTok. And actually, one of the jailers that was there that day, when she arrested me and booked me in, she's like, oh my gosh, that mug shot. But she's like, oh God, that's awful. But then she's like, you know what? She's seen me at my worst when I was in jail, and now she gets to see me at my best. And she told me, she's like, listen, I've seen a lot of people in the jail that goes back to the same lifestyle, or they died. She's like, you don't see that. And she's like, I'm proud of you for the person that you become, because she's like, I seen you the day that you came in the jail, and you were seeing you for the whole 150 days. Now I get to see you just blossom and bloom. And
I
I mean,
love that.
and the captain of the jail, Like he was at my daddy's funeral. He would go to celebrate recovery. And I mean, he tased me whenever I went into the jail because I was such a handful. He tased me. And then he got to see me at Celebrate Recovery and he'll message me on Facebook. I'm like, Holly, I'm proud of you. Like, I am so proud of you. You should be proud of yourself. And I
Are
am.
you proud of your, okay, yeah,
I am.
good, good. I'm glad that you are proud of yourself and you are proud of how hard you worked and, changing your life and getting to where you are. What, what made you decide to share your story? Like, what was like, what, I think I could share my story, or maybe
Because there's people out there and there's people out there that want to change, but they just don't know how. And if they hear my story and where I come from, and I was homeless and I lost my, because a lot of people get homeless, they go to jail, it's jail, institution, or death, or all of the above. And, I started going to Celebrate Recovery. I started telling my testimony because there's a lot of people out there that don't have a good support system. So
Mhm.
kind of like you, like if they hear a voice, they know, okay, well, she did it. I could do it too. And I'm getting ready to do another video on TikTok to thank the people that, they would comment under their store, under the comments and, oh my gosh, I've been clean for 10 years. I've been clean for 20 years. And I'm like, that is awesome. We
Yes.
do recover. And I love hearing, I always tell them, I can't wait to have 10 years. I can't wait to be like you. I can't wait to have 14 years. And then someone will be like, well, I just celebrated 30 days clean. Hey, 30
There you
days is a
go.
big deal for a recovering addict. Each day is a miracle. So for even one day clean from a
Yeah.
recovering addict is amazing. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
But back then, people called me a junkie and called me this, but I was somebody's daughter. I was somebody's sister. I'm somebody.
Yes, you are.
And
And what do
I,
you think of those people now? Like, have you seen those individuals? Have you ran into someone who maybe didn't think the best of you? And what is it that they think of you now?
they're still doing the same thing that they're doing. They're still in jail. And it took me a while to make amends. I had to learn in the 12-step program whenever I took it. Just because I'm clean now and have 2 or 3 years clean at the time, just because I make amends with these people that I've done wrong doesn't mean that, oh, just because you're clean, they're going to accept you. It took a long time for me to get my dad's trust back. It didn't happen overnight. And there's people that comment under TikTok. And actually, whenever I did that Stay Another Day video, they was women that messaged me saying, hey, I thought about killing myself. Um, Today was supposed to be the day that I said, and this lady, I was like, no, 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 please message me. Let's don't do this in comments. Please message me. I never heard back from the lady because the comment or it got deleted. But there was a few that, said, hey, I was having a bad day and seeing your video, it made me stay another day. And I'm like, well, stay another day.
Do
Because,
you have that
whenever
shirt by
you
chance?
stay, I'm sorry.
Do you have that shirt by chance?
Yes.
Yeah. Can we see
Hold on.
it? Yeah.
I'll go get it. Stay another day. And the hardest thing I ever had to do was my next door neighbor of 32 years in April, he was struggling. He was my best friend, a guy friend of 32 years. And my husband he lived next door with his papa, and we always seen him. He had tattoos, he did hair, he was a barber and stuff. My husband the day before was over there with his real dad and him hanging landscaping lights or hanging floodlights on their thing. And my husband was with him for like 2 or 3 hours and talked to him. And then the next day, while I was at work, the other neighbors kept calling me. They're like, hey, you need to get home. And, his girlfriend was outside screaming and hollering. And I come home and he shot himself in the house next door, and he still had a pulse. And we got to the hospital. And one thing that I will always respect my husband for, he didn't know him that well, but he was trying to. And I think it was either before or I think it's when we got back. My husband said, Holly, I can't let his papa because clean up this mess, because I talked to the police officers while they took him to the hospital. I'm like, hey, who do we get to come in and clean up this mess in his room? They're like, you might have to call these people, or you might have to do it yourself, or if you know someone that wasn't close to him, they might be able to do it. My husband, he said, Holly, I can't let that family come home and see this mess. My husband put gloves on, and as you know, a former police officer, when someone shoots themselves in the head, it's not a pretty sight. I couldn't do it. It made me sick, but my husband went in there and cleaned all that mess up so his family did not have to come home and relive that. And I will respect that man forever for that, because he didn't have to do that. He knew I loved him and I was close with him and his family, but he wasn't. And he said, well, that's why it was a little bit easier for me to go in there and do it, because I wasn't as close to him as you was. And for someone just, I mean, it's just selfless. Like, he didn't care. He didn't care how bad it was. He was worried about his family. And I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
But losing someone like that to suicide, and I look at his car and stuff every day, and then I knew I got his girlfriend one of these, and then I got one. And I just wish that he stayed another day. And I mean, I'm glad I stayed another day, because now I realize how his family and stuff's grieving over that. I'm so glad I did not put my family through that now. And you're seeing suicide younger and younger.
Yep.
And I've been following that Aubrey White case, and it's just so sad with the bullies and everything. And that's why I talked to my daughter and said,
Mhm.
listen, if there's ever a problem, if you're in trouble, or if you ever get pregnant, or you're scared, if something happens, come to me. Do
Mhm.
not make a permanent fix for a temporary problem that would have went away in just time.
Yep.
And I mean, it's sad because you're seeing younger and younger. And whenever I posted that video, it has over 500,000 views now, and people keep buying these shirts every single day. And I keep seeing people saying, I wish my husband stayed another day. I wish my wife, I wish my mom, I wish my brother. Like, I can't believe how many people has commented under that video and how many suicides there are. But it seems like there's more people that die of suicide than there is cancer. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot to do with, the mental health stigma out there. Like, people just feel like they're alone and they feel like that's like their only way out of things, which is very, very sad. You
They
know,
can't afford to get the proper help they need.
yeah. And that
And
too,
they,
right? Like, if they talk about it, I know, I mean, speaking with you, right? Like, you were an addict, right? uh People, one, healthcare and anyone trying to get any kind of help they need is crazy. But everyone is grouped together, right? So when you maybe do finally get the courage to open up and say you need help or you need this, you get a lot of people feel like they get judged, right? They just
yes,
get put
because
like,
whenever I would have sepsis or an infection from the needle, I would go to the hospital and they would be like, just another druggie. Oh,
right, yeah,
and
yeah,
and I would be so sick. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going there anymore,
right.
because they knew I was there dope sick, and they judged me.
Right. So
But
they judged you based on your past, but they're judging people who don't even have a past, right? And so they're like, "Oh, well, we see this all the time and, it'll go away or you'll
they
get
just put a
better."
label on them.
Yeah.
They like
Yeah. Everyone has that label and it's so sad. It's like you can't take just one situation or maybe a situation that, yeah, there is an issue with, but people are talking now. People are trying to get better. And I think that there needs to also be a conversation about how they just label everyone who voices they need help. And let's just not help them because that's just them crying wolf to get medication. Like that's
Yes, or that's why a lot of people with suicide don't want to talk because people are like, oh, you're just doing it for attention.
tension.
You're
Yeah,
just doing it for attention. And then that person like, you know what? I'll show you attention. I'm not just saying this. I'm gonna do it. Then they do
right.
it and it's too late.
Right. And it's sad. It is so sad. Like it doesn't take anything from anyone to just one, be nice. Like
Be
it doesn't
nice.
bother
It
you.
don't take anything to
Right. It
be
doesn't. And if you're not, I mean, like I always try to treat people the way I would want to be treated, right? And I will be out at the grocery store or wherever, right? And if I see someone, I will say something nice about them, right? Because that could be the one thing they hear the entire day, the entire month, whatever it is, that was nice, right? So, and what
that
does
gets them out of doing something
right,
bad.
right, like, and
Just one smile. Just
and
a
what does that hurt
smile.
though? Like, it doesn't
And
hurt
it's
me,
free.
right? So, I don't understand why people aren't more like that. I mean, people are so quick to be evil, and people are so quick to want to have road rage and fight with people and like let's just shoot people or whatever the case might be, but you don't know what everyone else is going through. So when you
No, and perfect example. Yesterday in our town, they had a new Arby's that opened.
Arby's, okay.
And it's been open for 2 days. And I told my daughter after her doctor's appointment, we were going to Arby's. I had my coupons and I wanted to go to Arby's.
I love how you
So
said you have your coupon.
yeah, I'm going to cut my coupons and have them out. Well, we're sitting in the drive through. They got 2 lanes. Well, I'm sitting there and all of a sudden, boom, someone hits my car. My daughter gets out at first, cussing, raising Cain, and we thought the guy was driving off. Well, we pulled over. He got out. He was a little old man.
Aw.
Come to find out, a lady come and her husband, and she's like, "Well, I need your information." I'm like, "Well, who are you?" She was his, I believe, PA because he was mentally challenged. He had special needs. He was 71 years old, special needs. I'm like, oh man, he just got the car 2 days ago and he backed in and he was just so upset. And I'm like, he did more damage. I told him to call the police so we could cover our tracks, and we called the police and they came, and he did more damage to his car than it is mine. Well, I called my husband and he come down here and brought my updated insurance card. And I kept telling my husband and the police officer, I'm like, listen, he didn't do that much damage to mine. I don't want to have to turn this in on his insurance. Honey, you could buff that out. I mean, he had a big old dent in his car. Well, I ended up talking to, I guess, the main lady that's over the home and all those people. She's like, whatever you need, you are so nice. Thank you for being understanding. I'm like, listen, this accident's happened. It's really this Arby's fault because they got the parking right where the drive-through is. Anyone's going to get hit. Well, my daughter told the couple that was there, hey, since he don't have a backup camera, he needs one of these like my stepdad put in my mom's mirror because you can get the cameras these days that go over your rear view mirrors that you could see. And they're like, yes, we're going to look into that. Well, I had the guy on my mind last night and I called and left the lady a message to check on him. Well, she called me back today and she was like, yeah, we're going to order one of those mirrors. And the one that they were going to order was just not worth the money. My husband sent me the link to send her. And my husband says, listen, tell her if they order that camera, I'll put it in for them. We don't know these people from Adam, but he's like, Holly, he's special needs. He's an older guy. I want to make it so this don't happen again. And here my husband is gonna put this guy's mirror in, and this lady was like sitting me a text, thank you so much, and I was honest with her today because she talks about being a caregiver, and I'm like, well, I try to help people. I'm a recovering addict. I've been clean for 6 years, and she's like, wow, I could tell you have a big heart because here this guy hits you, and you and your husband's trying to put a camera in his car and not turn it in on your insurance. But I just try to be a nice person, like if I don't need my car fixed, it's just material stuff. It's
Right. Right.
material stuff to be replaced, but people can't. And I just, as soon as I seen him, I just had a special place in my heart. And I told my husband, I'm like, listen, he's like, we need to put this in for him. And
I
so
just love,
we try to give back.
yeah, I love your heart. I love your husband's heart. Like that is just amazing. And it's great to hear someone who has been through so much, but come out on the other side having such an amazing heart and want to help others and be there for others and not be like so upset because of what they went through or angry at the world. That happens.
I
And
was at first because I lost this and I lost that, but it was just material stuff. Now I've gained everything back plus more. It's just
I love
material. It's
that.
just
I love
I
it.
learned to be more humble because I lost everything could be gone in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But people, once they're gone, they're gone. You know, the
Yeah.
only thing they're left with is their stuff,
And then what
and
are you
half
going to
the
do with
people
that after
give
so
it
long?
away.
I love
Um,
that. I love everything about you. I love your journey. I love where you are. I love your heart. You are absolutely beautiful, and I want you to know that. If
I am so glad you reached out to me. Like, I am glad you reached out to me. And if my
yes,
story could help one person, just
I'm
one person.
sure 100% it will. And I can guarantee, just by you doing your own videos with that shirt and things like that, I'm sure that has helped just one person. And just, you help that guy that hit you. Like you do help people. You already have helped people. So, you
I
have,
always wondered for years what my purpose was, why God saved me and didn't just let me die of an overdose. And now I know is that I'm here to share my story and to help other people. And I'm blessed. I'm blessed, and I'm so glad that I didn't die. I'm so glad.
I'm glad too. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here having this conversation with me and being a mom to your daughter, and being the amazing wife that you are and friend and sister that you always have been and maybe others dismissed because you were just going through a hard time. So I am so happy to see you on this side. And yeah, it's just amazing. Like I had multiple times cold chills listening to your story. So thank you. Thank you so, so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing. And thank you so much for being that person for other individuals. I know it means a lot to me, and I know those that are listening, it will mean a lot to them. So thank you so, so much. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we end the show?
No, I'm just glad I stayed another day. And if there's anyone out there that's struggling with addiction or trying to scared to leave an abusive relationship because you think that there's nothing out there, there is something out there. You could do it. It's not going to happen overnight. It takes time to get trust back and make amends. But if you make the step, like make the effort, like it's there. But we
Yes,
do recover.
I
We
love
do
that.
recover.
Can you tell me one more time the shot that you said helped you?
Vivitrol.
Vivitrol?
Yes, and it's nothing addictive like methadone or anything like that. It's a blocker. The
Okay.
judges in the jails give most of the inmates that. That's one part of their release to be able to have that. And you get, yeah, I think it was like a 3 month shot. They have pills and a shot, and you have to wear like a dog tag with it or a bracelet because it's a blocker and it blocks opiates and stuff. And like if you got in a car wreck, you have to wear that identification because so they know what to give you to reverse that. Because a lot of people, it is dangerous. A lot of people have overdosed on it because it's a blocker, and they would try to do drugs on it and you
Mhm.
couldn't feel it. So they were doing more, and it would overdose them and kill them. And that's why I knew that I couldn't play with that. I didn't even try to attempt any drugs or anything with it, but it was just non-addicting. Like it was a blocker.
Yeah.
Nothing like methadone or Suboxone. It didn't get you high. It just blocked anything and helped your cravings and the using dreams. And that really, I think I was on it for a couple of years. And I finally said, okay, I think I'm ready to get off this now. And
So it's something that you can get on, like you can get it prescribed to you and stay on it for a while?
you can, I don't remember. I don't know if it's like certain, like, Helen Ross McNabb. There's certain places like that that gives the shot. It ain't
Okay.
like a
Okay. Yeah.
prescription or anything.
Yeah.
I think you have to go and a caseworker will inject you, every month and stuff like that. But mostly like Helen Ross McNabb, people that take drug programs and stuff like that, they have them, and I would go there every month and take it. But a lot of people would be so bad on the drugs that they would have to take the pill and the shot at the same time because they were so addicted to drugs. But luckily, I only had the shot, and it helped me. It helped me so much.
Good, good. I'm glad that it did help. And hopefully others that hear this can get that information and it can, help them in some way. So,
And I recommend Celebrate Recovery program. Celebrate Recovery is at a lot of the churches, and it's not just a program for addiction. They have different classes on enabling, grieving classes, addiction, or just in any kind of place. People go there and they're like, I have a food addiction, I have a Facebook addiction, I have a gambling addiction. And all these people just come together and we worship. And I'll now, I have my worship playlist on my phone, and I do, and I sit here and I'm waving my hands and
I love
singing
that.
Mercy Me. I mean, I loved it.
Oh, I love that song too. Yeah.
Yes, and
Mhm.
it was a very good program, and
I
I
love that.
highly recommend Celebrate Recovery.
Perfect. All right.
Other than that, I think I'm done, and I'm sorry I backtracked and
No,
this.
no, it's fine. And I appreciate you sharing. And again, I know it wasn't easy and I know it was definitely hard to get to where you are. And I'm very glad to see you, in this amazing space. And, your heart is beautiful. You are beautiful. So you keep shining. And I hope that we will talk again. And stay in contact and stuff. I would
Yes,
love to,
I made a new friend.
yes, 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 you did. Yes, you did. So, with that, we are going to end the show for today.
Okay.
But if anyone would like to reach out to Holly, you are free to message me. And I think how can they find you on TikTok or something?
Yes, and they can find me on Facebook under Holly Carroll.
Perfect. Okay. All right.
I would
So
love to talk to other women or anybody that is struggling and just need someone to talk to. I would love to do that.
perfect. So if you are struggling or you know someone that is struggling, Holly definitely appears to seem to be an amazing individual and she's willing to take that on. So if you know someone that is just looking for that support, I definitely recommend Holly. So I hope everyone has an amazing, blessed day, and we will see you on the next Empowering You.